Hi, I'm Dr. Laura Koniver, and I get asked all the time about grounding in the presence of man-made EMFs. So I wanted to create this video for you to answer your most urgent questions about how grounding through a standard ground cord is impacting you when there are man-made EMFs around, things you can do to feel better, to really give some validation for people who are electro-hypersensitive who notice they actually feel worse when they're grounded. I'll tell you why. I'm going to show you with a multimeter and a ground test meter exactly what's going on and give you some positive solutions to fix it. So first, let's talk about what grounding is. Grounding means connecting your body with the earth outside. This conductive boost of health from the earth generally means that electrons are flowing from the earth into your body. This one-way flow of electrons from the earth into your body is called direct current. And before about 1900s, that is the only energy in the universe. That is the basis of electrical flow and conductivity from the planet to everything that lives and depends on the planet for existence, like trees and animals and even human beings. We've all evolved to respond positively with tremendous health benefits to DC support, direct current from the earth itself. But after about 1900, human beings came up with an alternative electrical current, and it's called AC. It's an alternating current. AC current is used to power everything in your home, everything man-made, from the power lines to your cell phone to turning your lamp on. AC current is the man-made version of electricity. And what AC current does is it basically allows electrons to flow back and forth. Instead of this beautiful direct current from the earth, it's a back and forth pulse that our modern electronics run off of. So you can think of this back and forth pulse of this electrical current, this AC current, sort of as the waves on a beach, coming up, going back, coming up, going back. And this is providing energy to power all of your electrical appliances. But now in medicine, we've got tons of medical research showing that this AC current creates these electromagnetic fields, these EMFs, that are actually unhealthy and cause stress and damage to human tissues. Because remember, we function in resonance with DC current, a one-way influx of healing electrons. And so this alternating current that's pulsing and exerting a EMF field on you is actually very stressful to the body. And if you want to read more about those medical studies, I have them listed on my website. You can click the link that says Electrosensitivity. When your body is in the presence of these electromagnetic fields, it's taking your electrons and pulsing them back and forth with that AC pulse that's going forward and back and forward and back. When you're not grounded, it's very stressful on your body because your electrons are feeling that pulse, that movement, and it's impacting inflammation and it's impacting how your body functions, and it can be very stressful, and that results in some of the symptoms of electrosensitivity. But what happens when we then get grounded in the presence of these EMFs? Instead of our electrons being stuck on our body and just being, agitated and becoming inflamed and increasing stress and wear and tear on your body, now we touch an object that also has electrons, for example, the earth, and that's what we're doing through grounding. And what we're seeking when we're grounded is that DC, beautiful one-way electron flow to your body to support your health and to boost your wellness and to give you an improved baseline of functioning, and it's awesome. But when you're in the middle of EMF fields and your own electrons are trying to be forced to move as the tide's coming in and out, as this AC current is pulsing, now when you touch something else that has electrons like the earth, you're allowing an avenue for your electrons to flow. So now instead of them being held on your body and getting irritable and irritated and causing symptoms, it is now able to flow on and off of your body through a standard ground cord. The effect of these EMF fields in forcing electrons on and off your body over and over and over again when you're grounding is stronger than the DC current that's trying to reach you. The DC current is the entire reason your body becomes healthier and gets health support from the earth. But when your EMF fields are so strong that they overpower that DC current coming in and running through your body, that's why people can sometimes feel worse when they're grounding. So that's why if you're grounding through a standard ground cord and you feel worse, this tells me that you're electrosensitive. Either it tells me that you have very strong EMF fields where you're trying to ground, or they could be not that strong, but you're very sensitive and can feel results from being grounded and you're feeling that AC current fluctuation. So if you're feeling tingling, if you feel any kind of pain, if you get a headache, if you feel your heart react, if you feel shaky, if you feel like you have trouble sleeping, if you feel restless, all of these things are described when people are grounding through a standard ground cord and they don't realize that the AC current and the EMFs around them are also impacting and possibly slightly overriding the DC healing energy that they're getting while they're grounded. But luckily, there's plenty of stuff we can do, and I'm going to show you exactly how you can overcome the impact of this AC current and just reach for the DC, the purity of the DC energy flow that's supporting your health. We want this DC current to be strengthened. We want to reduce or even eliminate this fluctuant AC current, and we can, and I'm going to show you how. Okay, so here we are with a standard ground cord with the snap that goes to a grounding mat. And we have the pure ground cord, and we're going to test both of them side by side. Before we start using a multimeter, we're going to run some simple tests. We're going to double check that both of them ground you and allow that DC energy to heal your body. We're going to double check and see if there is AC current running down either one of them with an electric field sensor. And we're going to see what the EMFs are that I'm being exposed to right now, and if grounding makes a difference in what I'm being exposed to or not. So let's get started with that. Okay, so the first thing I did is get this grounding pad set up with a standard ground cord. And then I'm going to use a grounding test meter to make sure and verify that this cord is grounding the pad. And you can see by the green light that's lighting up that it is grounding. So now let's double check that the pure ground cord also grounds the same pad. A pure ground cord is super easy to use. We designed it with an alligator clip so that it would be compatible not only with all of the grounding tools that I create, but also that other companies make. All you have to do is clip it to any edge of any grounding tool that you might already own, and it will apply its protective benefits to any grounding equipment you may already have. So you're not stuck with a standard ground cord if you've already previously purchased an item that uses a standard ground cord. All you have to do is clip on the pure ground cord and you'll have that filter and that EMF shielding now to your product. So let's just first verify that indeed the pure ground cord also grounds your product. Just by clipping it on the edge, your entire grounding mat is powerfully grounded, the same as with a standard ground cord. Now we're going back to a standard ground cord, the kind with a snap, and we're going to see if there is any AC current going down this line and contributing to increased EMFs in the form of electric fields. So let's turn it on. We know that outlets have electric fields. What does a standard ground cord do? If you can see, the caution light is still lighting up because this standard ground cord, since there is no filter here, is bringing an AC current down this line, and not just through the standard ground cord, but into the grounding tool. So this entire grounding tool now has an electrical field that does not have to be there because a current, an AC, unnatural, man-made current is running through this cord. Let's test a pure ground cord and see if we still have that same electric field coming out of a pure ground cord. Okay, so now we're going to test the pure ground cord. This pure ground cord has a filter right here which stops AC current from running down the line, and then it includes a shielding material all the way from the plug to the attachment point so that none of this ground cord can be resonant with the EMFs in the area. So it's not going to be perpetuating your electric fields onto the grounding pad where they don't need to be. So you can see that this grounding cord markedly reduces the current, actually eliminating the current that going through the line and eliminating an electric field from being emanated throughout this entire pad. So the reason it's quiet and you see a green light is because there isn't an electric field being transmitted from this outlet, which is got a very strong electric field, right? The same as when the standard cord was in there. Let's plug the standard cord in. Same thing, but in a standard cord, this is carrying and this is telling you there's a current going all the way down this cord. With the pure ground cord, This filter stops that current, so you don't have that same electric field running into your grounding tool. Lastly, before we dive into using a multimeter, I wanted to use my favorite EMF detector called the Safe and Sound, and I have this for you on my website if you want to grab one. This is the sound that my body is being exposed to being near my router. Now, some grounding advocates say that when you touch, as we know, this is the standard ground cord and this is grounding me, as we just verified. Some grounding experts try and convince you that your body is now safe and immune from EMFs, but we can see that this is absolutely just not true. I still have a headache. I still feel the router next to me. Touching this has not eliminated any of the EMFs in my environment. All that touching a grounding pad has done, especially through a standard ground cord, which, as you know now, the standard ground cord is actually contributing to the amount of EMFs I'm exposed to, because now this has its own electrical field. So now I've got the router there and an electrical field near me. And when I touch it, it's going from the voltage that's being induced on my body into an actual current that's running through my body. And I'm going to show you that with a multimeter, and that's what we're going to dive into now. The good thing about a pure ground cord is that because a pure ground cord doesn't allow this AC current to go down to the grounding pad, and because a pure ground cord is shielded and not allowing the EMFs that we can see are in the environment that I'm in, it's not allowing those to act on the ground line. When I touch a grounding pad, at least I'm not changing my AC voltage in my body to a current running through my body. So that's the amazing thing about a pure ground cord, and again, I'm going to show you that with a multimeter right now. I'm filming this for you in this awkward location because I'm right near my router, and I want to show what happens to the human body when we're grounding in the presence of high EMFs. So you can test this yourself with a multimeter. I have this exact one on my website if you want to use the exact same one I'm showing you here. You're going to turn it on and put it on the V with the little squiggle. That's to measure voltage of AC current. So you're going to turn it on and you're going to put it on that volt measurement, and then you're going to plug one prong into a grounded outlet, and then you're going to hold the other prong to your body, and it's now showing you, this is a very high reading, 4.57 VAC impinging on my body right now. So remember what we talked about. This means that this is the voltage potential of all the electrons on my body being stressed out and moving back and forth because it's in this EMF field, right? So I'm not grounded. The grounding pad is not hooked in. This is just the stress, the voltage potential on my body right now because I am near my router. So you might only see 0.2, 0.3, that's very common, but you can also, we've measured up to, 15 and 20 VAC. So that's scary, but since we're not grounded, there's no place for the electrons to go. So while they're moving around in my body and I'm feeling the fatigue from it and I'm getting a headache from it, it's actually not leaving my body at least. So let's check next and see what happens when we're grounded. If we have high voltages from EMFs and then we give the electrons a place to go when we ground through a simple ground cord and a grounding tool like this ground pad, then my voltage potential is going to decrease, right? Because instead of this being the amount of stress and wear and tear on my body, it's now going to leave my body through a grounded pad. So it's going to make the voltage look like it's lowering and maybe even going to zero, which is how grounding companies try and trick you into verifying you're grounded. This actually won't show that you're grounded because grounding is a DC mediated process. This is AC and just showing that the voltage being impinged on your body is now going out through your ground mat. Okay, so if we now use this multimeter to show the EMFs that are being impinged on my body right now, remember right now it's reading at 3.72, pretty high. Now what happens when I get grounded? Now the electrons on my body that were being impacted at the 3.72 level are now leaving my body and dropping the voltage down to just 0.3. So again, other grounding companies will try and say that, look, the stress and wear and tear on your body is decreased. But what they don't show you is this next step. So now you want to switch to this symbol right here. and make sure you've selected AC current, because now what we want to measure is actually the current that is running through my body when I'm grounded. We had those EMFs impinging on my body. The electrons had nowhere to go. It was showing a high reading. I touched a grounding mat, which I verified was grounding, and all of a sudden you see the voltage leaving my body, which is my electrons going the wrong way. And I want to know, what is the current? What is the current from my body? What are the electrons leaving my body when I'm grounded through a standard ground cord? When I'm ungrounded, it's almost undetectable, 0.001. Now it's 0.000. When I become grounded through this ground cord, you can see that jump to 0.15, now 0.148. So this is showing that this AC voltage now is giving this AC current is now giving my electrons a place to leave. And it's actually leaving through this ground cord. And it's causing me to feel tingly, actually. It's high enough that I feel that. And I have a headache from this entire experiment. Now let's fix this by switching this standard ground cord to a pure ground cord setup. Okay, so now we're going to repeat this experiment using the pure ground cord. I'm still in an area of high EMFs that are impacting my body. The reading right now is 4.59. If the AC current was impacting my body, forcing electrons on and off and on and off and on and off, you'd see that voltage drop to 0. Instead, it's staying at 3.56, which is fantastic, because now let's switch to current and test the cord directly to see what current runs through my body when I'm grounding. So we're going to switch to the current setting. We're going to make sure we're on AC, and we're going to test the cord directly. And now I'm grounding through the pure ground cord, and it's still staying at 0.009. So this is showing that there is little to no AC current running through my body. I mean, we're talking about 0.009. This AC current is basically 0. That means my electrons aren't going anywhere, and my DC current through grounding has a chance to reach my body and do the multitude of health benefits that 20+ years of medical literature has shown grounding does. It's wonderful for our body, every single cell in our body and every single organ system in our body, as long as we don't have the AC current fighting against the DC influx of electrons. This is proving to you that my body is not losing a current of electrons through the pure ground cord. Now, back when they were developing man-made electricity and developing that AC current, people realized it was dangerous. I mean, obviously we all know that electricity can kill people by electrocution, right? So they ran tests to determine what would be safe levels of exposure. And when they did that, they found that the average male could feel, the average person, not the electrosensitive, but just the average male could feel alternating current at 1 milliamp. And the average woman could feel it at 0.7 milliamps, which means women tend to be, and the medical research reveals, more electrosensitive than men. Some sensitive people can actually detect it down to 0.1 milliamps. And obviously nobody's the same. And so some people can feel that much lower than even that threshold. Other people can't feel anything even when it's very high, right? And also other factors like dry skin or having cuts in your skin or wintertime dry skin can increase your sensitivity. So people who feel a current running through them from a ground cord like this one, a standard ground cord, feeling this current, but reporting that they feel worse while they're grounding, I would call those people electrosensitive. It's definitely real, and among the millions of people that are grounding around the world through a standard ground cord, a large number of them just don't feel that good when they're grounding through the standard ground cord. And this is the reason, pure and simple, because when I'm grounded through a standard ground cord, I have this AC current running through my body, because this cord is allowing the AC current to reach me, and it's giving my body a pathway for having these electrons actually forcibly removed, like this pulse, on and off and on and off and on and off, and it's creating this current. And the crazy thing is, you don't even need AC current at all, because grounding is a DC, natural, earth energy mediated connection. So we don't need this AC current, and we can remove the standard ground cord instead in favor of a pure ground cord that has a filter right here that absolutely stops any AC current from going up the line. So now you know that seeing an AC voltage drop to 0 when you're grounding is not a good thing. It means that that current is literally running into your body and running through your tissues. And if you have symptoms from that and you feel that, then you know it's a very real thing. Don't be tricked by other grounding advocates that say you can test grounding by seeing an AC voltage drop to 0. Grounding has nothing to do with an AC voltage. Grounding is a DC mediated process. When you see an AC voltage drop to 0, that should raise a red flag that it's now entering your body. That is all that it means. Do not be tricked into sticking with a standard ground cord that is not working for you. The first thing you can do is switch to a pure ground cord that will stop that AC current from impacting your body and allow only the fresh, healing, one-way electron flow from the earth of DC energy. That's the channel you want to be on. That's the natural healing process of grounding at work.